Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's a little bit late, mostly because I was gone over the winter holiday, but here we are with our What's in Bloom for December of 2019. And of course you'll be watching this in 2020, and so I wish you all a very happy new year. I don't have everything in bloom anymore which was in bloom in December. For instance, the Twinkle here, I cut the spikes before I went on holiday because the plant seemed a little bit worse for wear. And I didn't see the point in letting it put its energy into flowers when I wouldn't be here anyway. So I'll show you some photos of what the Twinkle looked like. But I don't have any video footage. I'm afraid I forgot to video it. So let's begin with this one then, so you can see what these little blooms look like. So let's start with my Oncidium Twinkle. It was one of the first orchids I got online. So one of the first special ones I actually got. So I've had this one for about half a year and then started growing spikes. So I expected flowers relatively soon. Unfortunately, that was not the case. It took another half year for the spikes to develop. And the eventual flowers that came out of it were really quite charming. They were small and they're pretty, and I'll put a photo up because unfortunately I did forget to video them. But they weren't great in number because I understood that the Oncidium Twinkle has a lot of small flowers on the spike. And this was because, as you can see here, this pseudobulb is a lot smaller than the pseudobulb it came with. And honestly, I was surprised it bloomed in the first place because it doesn't have much in the way of storage devices to give us the energy to do so. Before I went on holiday, I cut the spikes because you can see that the pseudobulbs have really withered under the strain of them. And since I wouldn't be here, it was kind of silly to leave them on and drain energy. They smell fantastic, actually, the flowers. The flowers smelled like cookie dough, like cooking sugar, actually. You know, the sugar you use in baking goods. It's really delicious. I really quite like it. And the flowers were really nice as well. They were very nice and tender, and they had this nice red center with the oranges and the yellows, and they were interesting to look at. I really quite like this, and I can imagine that once this Oncidium is healthy and it can actually give me a proper cloud of flowers, it will be an absolutely stunning display. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope it manages to recover properly, and maybe next year we'll have a better blooming. Next we have an orchid that we've seen in a What's in Bloom video before. It's the Signal DS1 Delight, and this is its second rebloom of this year. And earlier in the season it flowered with 13 flowers, and you can go to my previous What's in Bloom video to see them. And now it's flowering with another 8 flowers, so it's a more normal amount of flowers this time, a more average display. But it's actually quite nice because that means that the scent isn't as overpowering. When this flowered with 13 flowers, I couldn't really be in the same room as this orchid for a long amount of time because it was just so overpowering. It really knocks you out. But now with 8 flowers, it's noticeable. It's definitely noticeable, but it's not nearly as bad. So scent-wise, this is preferable. Of course, the other one had a much greater show. I also feel like the flowers are a little bit more purple and a little less red this time. And like the column is more pinkish than last time. And I can put up a little video photo so you can compare them for yourself. But all in all, I'm super happy with this chian-tzy. It is a star performer this season and cannot be better, not really. It is now slowly starting to reabsorb one of its old pseudobulbs, as you can see here. I'm pretty sure it's not rot. I think it's just draining it of usable materials, and then it'll be gone. I do know it's quite normal for Signal types to not have pseudobulbs older than 2 years. So it's quite normal, I believe, for it to be losing this back bulb. And as always, the flowers are thick, they're waxy, they're glossy, and they have this really strong, thick substance. They are really fantastic. I really, really like this orchid, and I fully recommend it to anyone who likes heavily scented and strong substance flowers. The Signal DS1 Delight is definitely for you. Next is another orchid that we've seen before. It's the Mushara chian-tzy Ruby CT Golden Chocolate. It's a long name, always takes me a moment to remember. And it's coming included anyway, just because it really is one of my favorites. And the camera's making it look a little bit more purple and darker than it appears to me. To me, it really does appear quite red. But maybe I can correct that a little bit in editing. And one thing I always really like about this orchid is that little splash of yellow in the lip. The white column and the yellow lip just really make this very nice contrast with the dark red, and it keeps the flower interesting. I really quite like this one. When I first got it, I thought it had a scent. It's kind of like very faint vanilla-ish. However, I haven't really been able to smell it since. So I'm not entirely sure whether I can say that it's scented. Not really, perhaps. But it is tiny. It's you can see how small these pseudobulbs are compared to my finger. So for anyone who likes a small pocket-sized almost orchid with nice showy little blooms, I think this is quite nice. And here we have a new rebloom. This is a no Idea Oncidium that I bought last year in the flower shop, and I've tentatively identified it as a Oncostel firecat. However, if you have any better ideas, please do leave them in the comments down below. And they are very nice little blooms. They have this nice little red with the oranges and the yellows I tend to like so much on orchids. It's a little bit of a messy display. You can see that the flower spike has kind of turned to a question mark shape, and that's because I was messing with the placements while I was starting to create the spike. It does not have a scent. It is completely unscented. And I'm actually surprised that it flowered, because the pseudobulb that I built this year when I got it is much smaller than the pseudobulb that it came with. But it did flower, so I'm really quite happy with that. And I'm just going to continue to enjoy it. Because of the shape of the flower spike, the show isn't quite as nice as it could be. And unfortunately, due to the small pseudobulb, there aren't as many flowers as it has potential of growing either. However, I still really quite like it, and I'm happy to have blooms in the first place. I didn't expect that. Last but certainly not least is this no Idea Phalaenopsis that I got as a gift from my mother. Now, my mother likes buying orchids and enjoying the flowers, but she's not much of a grower. So when she's done enjoying the flowers, they go to me and I get to rebloom them. And this is the very first one which has successfully rebloomed. And I quite like it, actually. I really liked it before it flowered, because look at those leaves. It has this kind of dappled markings that I really like. It just makes it much more interesting to look at. But these flowers are also quite interesting, because you can see that the lateral sepals are yellowish, and so is the lip, so they kind of like echo each other. And I really like that very plentiful and very graceful dotting on the lateral sepals and the lips. And I don't know how well I can show you here, but the petals and the sepals are sparkly. They are very, very sparkly. So it has this very interesting texture that's just really fun to look at and see reflecting the light. We'll have blooms for quite a while from this one, because you can see that there's still a lot of buds here to open, and I don't know whether that tip is going to create more buds in the future, perhaps. But also, we have 3 side branches forming here, which will in turn make their own new buds and more flowers. So I think we'll have this one in bloom for quite a while longer, and I'm looking forward to it. I can't detect a fragrance as of yet, and these complex hybrid Phalaenopsis often do not have one anyway. But at one point when I tried to detect a fragrance, I thought I smelled something very, very faint, but it could have been my imagination. I cannot in any good way really say this is a fragrant orchid. It isn't. But it is a very pretty one, and I'm very happy to have it. So thanks for your gift, Mum. I'm enjoying it so much. And here you have one more shot of all of the orchids that are currently in bloom. So we've got the Signal DS1 in the light. We've got the Mushara chian-tzy ruby CT golden chocolate. We've got a no Idea Phalaenopsis that I got from my mother. And if anyone has a ID suggestion, please do leave it down below in the comments. We have a potential Oncostel firecat and a Twinkle, which is unfortunately already done blooming, and I don't have any footage of it. I hope you enjoyed the late December What's in Bloom. If you have any questions or any suggestions for IDs, please do leave them down below in the comments. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you disliked it, go ahead and give it a thumbs down. If you do give it a thumbs down, please also leave a comment as to what I can do to improve, because that's always a little bit more helpful. And if you would like to see more of my videos in the future, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that you can be notified of when I place new videos. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys!